the rhythm of their adjustments and the frequency of their adjustments is based on making sure that they're always making progress forward and not sliding backwards. So they're always gaining, because that's what people want. They want to continue to move forward and get the most out of every bit of their time, energy, focus, and money. In order to get people to comply to the recommendations for care, we simply have to establish wanting.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast, Chiropractic's #1 business podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And always, we show up stoked. We are ready to rock and roll. It's Friday. We are in the studio. It's been a power hour already. This is our second episode that we have been recording today, on the heels of an amazing week of masterminds, coming off of a seminar in beautiful Mexico City. Got some waves down in Mexico, so I'm fully charged up. Dr. Pete and I are in the throes of our quarterly pulse meeting with our leadership team. We are literally we're at halftime. This is our halftime show right now, is us recording these. We were at it all day yesterday. We're going at it all day today. We are practicing what we're preaching. We're preaching what we're practicing, guys. We are in it with you. We are in the throes with you. These are not a couple of guys on the mountaintop pontificating to all y'all. We are sleeves rolled up and in the trenches, dragging ourselves into the room for the second half of our powerful quarterly pulse meeting. Dr. Pete, I'm ready to rock today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had a great morning, a great morning routine, great rhythm, getting ready. It's so important to be ready. Like you said, it's halftime. And I was thinking about something we talked about yesterday, which was what does it look like to come back? We talked about 28-3, and we all remember that Super Bowl, right? And this idea, like wherever you find yourself on the journey, right now in your life or your business, if you're tuning in for the first time today, welcome to the show. Some people drag themselves into this podcast. They're like, man, I just ran into it, or my buddy said I needed to check it out or whatever. Maybe this is your first episode. Maybe you've been listening for a while, but you just find yourself, dragging. Maybe you're struggling. You're I don't know. Just the reality is, life and business is challenging. We always say it's wicked hard, So, if you aim for the squeamish, if you're feeling that press, that push, that pressure, like, good, right? Good. That means you're in it. Like, good for you. Like, well done to keep showing up. Well done to tune in, well done to press in, don't stop. And I'm going to encourage you, don't stop. And, we recently went over a lot of the quarterly stats and outcomes from, with the docs and CEOs that we serve. And some had best quarters we've ever had in our history. Some was like, we just barely hit our base case. Some were like, it wasn't our greatest quarter. Guess what? All of them the same. Good. All right, let's go. It's a new quarter. Turn the page, blank page. Let's go. What are we going to do to make Q2 great? Right. So, we've got to keep moving forward. You got to keep things moving along. And Dr. Stephen, I just love this podcast because I know that it serves many of you as an opportunity to just be reminded of, like, oh yeah, I needed to hear that. I needed to be reminded that I am a leader. And, as a leader, I'm called to, to lead. And that means not just create followers, but create leaders, which means I'm empowering people and I'm equipping people. And so that's why this podcast, I hope, serves as a mechanism for you to feel and be empowered and to be equipped so that you can empower and equip. And we're just sharing, the things that, are convicting to us and things that are challenging us and what we're seeing in the marketplace as we get to see it from Mexico City and from our CEO, master classes and masterminds. And here we are, coming up in advance of our conversion, retention, immersion. So, Dr. Stephen, we're talking today about conversion again. We're going to keep this conversation going. This one's going to be driving a lot more towards the retention side as well. Just thinking about, why would somebody start to stay? Why would somebody stay under chiropractic care? Why would they do that? What would compel someone to follow through on the recommendations for care? Like, we give recommendations, but why don't people follow them? Right? Good leaders create leaders, great leaders create followers. This is about being a great leader. Great leaders, I hope I said. Good leaders create a follower. They might follow, but a great leader creates a leader. What I'm saying to you in the chiropractic setting is when you lead well, your patients become leaders in their healthcare journey, and they will choose to make decisions to invest and to follow through and to comply and to do all the things that are going to drive towards the outcomes that they want, because you as a leader have raised the level of leadership of the patient, where you're not giving them your report card, but we're actually in this together. We're equally yoked in our what we're accountable for as a doctor in a clinic and you as the patient. And Dr. Stephen, that's what I think is going to be transformative today, is that we're going to unpack some things that I personally believe could be an inflection point in your practice in the next 1 to 3 years. It will literally be a game changer for the value of your organization in terms of scalability, durability, transferability. What we're talking about today is going to be a key component of that, knowing what our product is and knowing what business we're in.
Man, I love the conversation around conversion and retention, because I do understand that is just the guts of what we do as chiropractors, right? So it's what it boils down to. I mean, everybody's so enamored with attraction and marketing and lead generation, and that's critically important, right? So, I know the truth. You can only help those that you attract, right? But when you boil it down, the truth is you can only really help the people that you convert. And if we're gonna really get down to it, and I don't want to project my philosophy, but I'm going to take a moment to do just that. You can only keep the people you can only help the people you retain. Right? So it's just like chiropractic is a lifestyle success strategy for healthy human beings. And we all understand that, when somebody gets checked by a chiropractor, is that good? Yeah, that's good. Right. So when somebody gets adjusted by a chiropractor, is that good for them? Yes, it's good for them. In the vast majority of cases, is that going to be an inflection point for their life? We love to tell the story of that 1% who, they needed that one adjustment and it changed their life forever. I get that. But we all know that the other 99.9% of cases, it's the regular chiropractic care over time. We know that it's about reducing nerve interference over time that really changes the health of humanity, right? So if you're like me, you share the philosophy that people should be getting adjusted regularly over time. And that's where we do our best work. We understand that, hey, if there's a compound effect to being sick, and the longer you stay sick, the sicker you get. If you get that, I think everybody knows that is absolutely true. Well, conversely, the longer you stay healthy, the healthier you get. I mean, what are we in this for? I mean, what the hell are we doing here? Like, if you know that that's true, then doesn't it all come down to retention? All right. So at the end of the day, it's about people getting checked and adjusted regularly in rhythm over a lifetime. That's where we do our best work. There's a compound benefit to chiropractic care. So if you know that to be true, does every part of your process and procedure drive towards that very specific outcome? Or do you have elements of what you do or what you say that compete with that? So this is very much a CEO conversation, because we're in the business of saving lives, and when business is good, everybody wins. So if we're going to take a business perspective on this, retention is the best business model in the world, period, hard stop, right? So, if we're going to have a CEO conversation about LTV CAC, your lifetime value to cost to acquire a customer, if you want to get into the guts of the analytics and the metrics around this, I can make that argument all day long. So now we're on purpose, on mission. It's the best business model in the world. And frankly, it's far more fulfilling and more fun, isn't it? Right. So when people are getting regular chiropractic care over time. So if we know that is the paramount, that's where I feel like I'm doing my best work. Where do you feel like you're doing your best work? I know when people get it. And when I say get it, when they make a true conversion, when they make that paradigm shift, and they become a vitalist who knows that life is better with less nerve interference, a vitalist who knows the way that I reduce nerve interference is through regular chiropractic care. When you're a vitalist, that's the ultimate true conversion, Dr. Pete. So, I know that that's the apex of my purpose and my mission is when I can change the way people think and I change their belief system, which organizes their behaviors and drives the outcomes that we want for everybody, right? So what I'd love to be able to just narrow this conversation down to today is this concept of concepts. And when we teach our process, procedures, and scripting, we can teach 100 people the same process, procedures, and scripting. And if you simply build a skill and you learn them and you execute them, you can follow the process and follow the procedure and say the words in the script or something very close to it, right? So, and just follow that. You're going to do better. I know that. But why is there an outlier group of people that just does exceptional and extraordinary with the same process, procedure, and scripting? And I can tell you what it comes down to is the concept of a concept, where they get the big idea up and the overriding narrative for the process, procedure, and scripting. And here's one that I'd love to be able to drill down on today, which is wanting, establishing wanting. So in marketing, they call it establishing wanting. Like the purpose of marketing and sales is to establish wanting. Because here's what I know to be true. If we're talking about regular chiropractic care over time, the word we use for that is compliance. Compliance to a care plan. When patients are compliant, that means that they're following your recommendations for care. If patients are compliant, they're following your recommendations for care. And in my world, that means they're getting chiropractic care regularly in a rhythm over time. And I think there's two different things between somebody wanting to get adjusted and somebody wanting to get adjusted in rhythm regularly over time, Dr. Pete. I think compliance is the key to this, and the key to compliance is to establish wanting. Adults have to want to comply. You cannot get an adult to comply and do something that they do not want to do regularly over time. This all comes down to one nexus. We have to establish wanting.
Yeah, Dr. Stephen, this is such an important CEO conversation, as you said. This is a CEO conversation. So, and by the way, Dr. Stephen, we can apply this same concept and to running your business and with your team, et cetera. So, but we're applying it to your chiropractic practice. So what we know is that, conversion to chiropractic, conversion is a reflection of conviction, right? Conviction is ultimately what's going to turn that seeker, somebody who's seeking help, who sought you out, they clicked on your thing, they raised their hand, they picked up the phone and called. So that was a reflection of your certainty, right? So there was something about the video they watched, the copy they read, the thing they listened to, your talk that you gave, the patient who referred them in. That certainty is what got that person to take the first step, the hardest step, which was to call, right? And they called because they want something. So Dr. Stephen, we have to get back to why did they reach out in the first place, right? But they convert because they feel something, right? But then they stay because they understand something, right? So if you think about this whole idea of the wanting actually starts from the beginning of the patient journey, right? Think about that. Why did you call in the first place? Like what is really going on? What I always like to say, Dr. Stephen, on a very practical level, thinking practically, is what they wrote on the paperwork, and then there's what they didn't write on the paperwork. And my goal was always to find out what was not on the paperwork, because there's what's going on, and then I have what's really going on.
Yes.
There's two things going on. There's what's going on, and then there's what's really going on. And what's going on is on the paperwork. What's really going on is what's not on the paperwork. And that's what we're after. And so what they want, you have to find out what that is. They're going to give you two layers. They're going to give you multiple layers of that. But there's layers of want. And the better that we can be at getting that. And Dr. Stephen, I think that's why they call because they want something. And so the first step in this whole journey is to be empathetically bent towards a person, which we create connection. We do that by being genuinely curious about what it is that they want, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And it's not just about their symptom. It's not just about their pain, but understanding their life and how that's affecting their life. And ultimately, what is it that they want to accomplish? Like, if you were to get rid of this pain, if I could just wave a magic wand and everything goes away, like, what would your life look like? What would you be able to do that you can't do? Who would you be that you can't be right now? Like, and when you can bring people into this level of consciousness and awareness, and then they begin to see that, you are the person that's going to be able to help them get there, but that the only way that they're going to be able to get there is if they are compliant with your recommendations for care. That's the bridge, Dr. Stephen, I think that we're talking about, is how do you take the bridge from, I think I made a really good connection. Okay. I found out what they wanted, but for some reason they're still not following my recommendations. They're just not taking me seriously. They get to this moment where they're just like negotiating how they want to work out their care plan. They want to spread out their visits, or they want to do one of the legs, but not all three of them, or two, but not all three of the legs of the stool. So I know we can't do the entire seminar today, but we've got like 3 minutes to pack it in, right? But Dr. Stephen, this is it. This is the crux of it, because now you're talking about humans. It has nothing to do with chiropractic. Now you're talking about humans, right? This is humanity.
Oh, we're always just talking about human nature.
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
Everybody, as soon as you accept that one, right?
Yeah. So anyway, let's land this a little bit. This plan, I mean, we can't go on and on, but I do encourage everybody, if you're listening and you're compelled by this and you want to grow your business, especially in the area of retention, day 2, Saturday, on our conversion retention immersion will blow you away. And Dr. Stephen, you said something on a previous episode where you talked about, you got to get the first day 1 through 4 right. Then you get week 1 through 4, and then you get month 1 through 4, then year 1 through 4. I'm going to go on to say decade 1 through 4 and generation 1 through 4.
Beautiful.
We are not just stopping there, but what would it look like for someone to continue on and on and on and pass the baton to the next generation and say, my grandfather passed it on to my great grandfather, to my grandfather, my grandfather, my father, to me. Whoa, that is a different level. And that's what we're talking about here, but it would never happen if you truly didn't convert.
So let's take it from that galactic, philosophical, beautiful, visual of why we're really doing what we're doing, right? So generational health, right? So, and let's pull it all the way right back down to the ground. And it's just like, how does this hit the ground in the practice? And what's an example of this? And I just think it's such an important thing to recognize that if you agree with us and we say, it's like, yeah, it's all about retention. Okay, very good. Is it just like I get adjusted regularly, or I've been getting adjusted my whole life? We've had so many people that we've heard say, oh, I've been getting adjusted my whole life. Oh yeah, since I was a kid. Oh yeah, when's the last time you were adjusted? Oh, that's like, let's see. It was probably before COVID. It's like, you look at a person like, oh, okay. You don't want to beat them up with it, but it's like, that's a person that just self-identified as somebody who loves chiropractic, loves getting adjusted, has been getting adjusted their whole life, and just referenced, I think the last time I got adjusted was before COVID. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? So that's one level. Let's call that level A1. There's nothing below that, right? So other than maybe I was adjusted one time, man, changed my life. Like, I guess it did, right? So we've got to recognize that to the fullest expression of our potential and where we can really, really impact humanity, like one human at a time, and change the trajectory of the life of a family, is regular chiropractic care over time. If we can just agree on that, what that implies is they're going to comply to your care plan. Okay. So that means they're going to follow your recommendations for care, and they're going to get adjusted. If you're in the remarkable practice system, in our ecosystem, in our world, what that means is they're getting adjusted regularly in rhythm over time. They're getting regularly adjusted in rhythm. Okay. And what does that mean? It means that the doctor gives recommendations for care where they're going to get adjusted 3 times a week, twice a week, once a week, every other week, whatever. There's a rhythm to their adjustment based on one thing. How long are they holding their adjustment? Okay. The recommendations will be based on 2 things: their goals and our findings. But the visit frequency is based on one thing: how well do you hold your adjustments? There are outside factors, like if you get in an accident or some kind of flare up, whatever, you can change the rhythm and increase the rhythm, but you set a rhythm for a patient to follow. Patients have to understand, why is the rhythm important and what is that based on? Mm-hmm. People have to understand. It's like, role play with me for a second here, Pete. So yep. Dr. Pete, I'm going to give you my best recommendations for care. And I want you to understand what my recommendations are based on. They're always based on just two things: your goals, my findings, right? So you told me what you're trying to accomplish, and I did an examination. Those objective findings tell us what you need to do to get what you want. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the pre-framing around it, right? Then you teach them is like, we're going to start with a minimum of 4 months of corrective chiropractic care, right? This is the first stage of care. We've already showed them the first stage, second stage, third stage. Right now, let's focus on just the first stage. We're talking about visit frequency. What I want patients to understand, okay, become an understander, is the adjustment frequency. Why 3 times a week? Listen. The purpose of an adjustment is to reduce nerve interference. I have objective criteria to determine if you have nerve interference, whether you're subluxated or not. That's why I check you. I assess you every time I say, and I'm checking to see, how are you holding your adjustment from the last adjustment, and where are you ready to be adjusted today? That's what I'm checking for. Guys, listen to my language. Patients have to understand this. What I am looking at is, where are you in your process? Are you progressing? We are on a journey together, and every adjustment in this 3 steps forward in our journey together. It's not, I check you and you have subluxated, so you've knocked it out and I knock it in, and you go back to life and come back, and you've knocked it out again and I knock it back in, and you've knocked it out and I knock it back in. And now we're kind of going this back and forth thing, like a car wash. You drive around all week, you get dirty, you go to the car wash, you rinse the dirt off, and now you have a clean car again. Drive around all week, next Saturday, back to the car wash, rinse the car wash off. Listen, if your patients don't understand that you guys are on a journey together, and every adjustment is 3 steps forward, and you're scheduling them at a visit frequency where they take no steps backward, they don't slide backwards, or they only take 1 step back, and if they keep with that rhythm, you hold your adjustments for 2 days, so I'm going to see you 3 times a week. I'm going to see you Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so we can continually move forward. And it's 3 steps up the ladder and no steps back. 3 steps up the ladder and no steps back. 3 steps up the ladder and no steps back. So if you miss or change your appointment, what happens is you don't take 0 steps back. You take 1 step back, or 2 steps back, or maybe 4 steps back. So now what are we doing? 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. 3 steps forward, 5 steps back. 3 steps forward. You guys follow me? That is called wasting your time, energy, focus, and money. And you have to remember that patients are economists, and people are loss averse. They do not want to lose what they've gained. If you take the time and you're persistent and consistent, and you teach the patient every adjustment is 3 steps forward, I am scheduling you so you take 0 steps back or no steps back. So I'm studying you when I assess you to see, are we taking 3 steps forward, no steps back, 3 steps forward, no steps back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. And I am learning your body, and I'm checking you in this cadence and in this rhythm. If you change your appointment, that screws me up. If you miss your appointment, you're sabotaging the care. Dr. Pete, at the end of the day, we have to take that believer and turn them into an understander. And one of the things that they have to understand is the rhythm of their adjustments, and the frequency of their adjustments is based on making sure that they're always making progress forward and not sliding backwards. So they're always gaining, because that's what people want. They want to continue to move forward and get the most out of every bit of their time, energy, focus, and money. In order to get people to comply to the recommendations for care, we simply have to establish wanting.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy.
Hey, Remarkables, it's Dr. Kale here. Listen, today I'm stoked to be online with Dr. Steve Tullius. I'm excited to talk to you today, Doc. I'm really pumped about it. I know we know each other, and I'm just excited to be here with you. It's an honor to have you on, and we've got an amazing CEO audience here with us. Some of them may know who you are, and some of them may not. So maybe you can take a moment, just introduce yourself, help us get to know the expert in the room. Tell us a little bit about your story and what's led us to ultimately being here together today.
Awesome. Thank you, Doc. I like you and many of the listeners, I believe I was born to be a chiropractor. I believe it's a purposeful universe. And when I look at everything that brought me to this point, it's pretty clear that this is this was all purposeful. And I love chiropractic. It's that big idea of every man, woman, and child being checked from birth throughout a lifetime, and what that would mean for humanity. That thing closest to a utopia that BJ Palmer shared with us, that vision. And so my journey was one of going, starting at Los Angeles College of Chiropractic, and not getting the philosophy. Philosophy was presented as history, and we were given the 34 principles, the 34th being "May the force be with you." And so I came out not even able to say the word subluxation, and giving a 12 visit care plan was the most I could do at the time. And even that was hard. And fortunately, I had a lot of great mentors along the way. One being my chiropractor. He took me to Parker seminars. I heard Dr. Jim Sigafus speak, and I didn't really know what he was saying because he was talking so fast with that Southern accent. But it was, I knew he was on fire for this thing. And that led me to explore and actually pick up my first green books. I'd never even heard of a green book. And I started going to philosophy seminars, and I started to learn this thing called chiropractic. And 23 years later, I'm on the board of Sherman College of Chiropractic. I've been vice president of the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations. I created a pediatric chiropractic program at Autism One a few years ago. And now I currently run a company that helps chiropractors put on workshops and reach the sickest of the sick, and with a vision of bringing the profession back on track with that objective, and reaching the people that really need us the most. And so that's where my heart and my energy lies, today, and which is what brought us here to talk.
I love that. I didn't know that journey that you'd gone through from where on the spectrum you were from a philosophical standpoint to where you are now. That's amazing for me to hear as one of your clients as well. It's pretty cool. Thanks for telling me that.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things I didn't share with our listeners is the name of your business, Waitlist Workshops. And we know, Doc, that every business exists to solve a problem. And I know your business exists to solve a problem. I know the problems that it solves, but I'm curious if you could share that with our CEO listeners. What problems specifically do you solve? What does Waitlist Workshops do for chiropractors and their teams?
Yeah, we solve the multiple problems for offices that want to give workshops. We solve the number one problem, which is getting butts in the seats. Right? At the end of the day, you can have the best content in the world, but if no one's there to hear it, then what does it matter? Right? So we ultimately solve that problem. However, we really solve a lot deeper problems. I discovered workshops out of necessity. In 2012, I sold my first practice, and I traveled around the world with my family for 9 months. It was amazing. We sold everything. I had literally no possessions except for backpacks and whatever clothes and computer I could hold with me. We had no cell phones. It was really amazing. But I came back from that trip with two things. One was actually the lack of things, and that was money. I came back broke. I didn't plan very successfully, and it was a lot more expensive to travel for 9 months without a job than I had anticipated. And I came back broke, and I also came back with a very sick child. My son had developed an autoimmune encephalitis known as PANS, along that journey. And so I had to figure out how to start a brand new practice on a shoestring budget, and so I could feed my family and take care of my responsibilities. So I started to, I grew up as a puzzle solver, and I knew workshops worked. This was right at the advent of social media marketing. So I got on Facebook, and I started running ads, and I started running ads for these workshops, and eventually I cracked the formula. I had 15, 20, 25 people at my workshops every month, and colleagues saw what I was doing, asked if I would do it for them. I said yes, and they actually prodded me to create this for the profession, right? Because that wasn't my goal. My goal was not to have a marketing company. I was a chiropractor, not a marketer, but I had solved a really big need. And the biggest need that we solve is that we attract the people that want, need, and value chiropractic the most. We attract the people who have no hope, the people who are actually responsible for this profession actually surviving. And so that we can even talk today, there's those people who demanded that their chiropractors, when chiropractors used to be thrown in jail, they demanded that their chiropractors be released because they needed them to help them get well and stay well. And, along our journey as a profession, we got sidetracked. I've been heavily involved in chiropractic politics. In fact, I was on a Zoom call with the Montana legislature this morning to testify against a bill that would bring drugs into chiropractic.
Yeah.
And, we got sidetracked, and not only on, because of the opposition or, the others who would have us be something else that we're not, but we got sidetracked in our own camp in the 80s, with insurance reimbursement, and that reimbursement being primarily for neck pain and back pain. And we got sidetracked with our messaging and our mission. And not that it's not great to help people with those challenges, but that was never the reason why 700 chiropractors went to jail. They went to jail for a vision for humanity that was far greater than that. And so what our program does, because of the type of topics that we have, our topics are around neurodevelopment, autism, ADHD, sensory processing disorder. They're around the gut-brain connection, autoimmune issues, fibromyalgia, digestive issues, hormonal issues, chronically ill people, and mental health matters. Those are our three core topics. Those three topics represent 60% of the westernized nations of the world. So 60% of the US population, 60% or more of US and Canada populations fall into one of those three topics. So there's no shortage of need for chiropractic, but there is a massive shortage of demand. And so what we do is we create the demand. That's what marketing is all about. I never, as I mentioned, set out to be a marketer. BJ Palmer never set out to be a marketer, yet he realized that he had to get that message out to the world. So he created the first radio station west of the Mississippi. He had his own printing press. And so the vision for this is to create the demand, because as I mentioned, I was highly involved in chiropractic politics. I've testified in front of the U.S. Department of Education twice regarding the CCE. And what I recognized after a while was that I could do a whole lot more by promoting versus attacking. And if this thing that we're talking about, if subluxation is massively detrimental to the expression of health and human performance and function and potential, and releasing that interference has this amazing restorative impact on physiology, health and function, then that message should be valuable enough for the public to grasp and to demand, to have access to. And so I started focusing on demand and creating awareness. And that's the vision for this, having these workshops in every community around every part of the world. We're currently we're in 4 continents, we're expanding. We're about to go into Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. We're in Australia, Canada, of course.
Wow.
We've been in Taiwan, Amsterdam. The vision is to have a unified message where we create demand for subluxation focused, nervous system based chiropractic. So that's the problem we solve.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And I can speak from my own experience, right? We've used Waitlist Workshops now for, I think, the last year. Is it about a year, Steve, that we've been?
I think so, at least. Yeah, somewhere around there, Kale.
Yeah, and I've seen your program work in offices like ours that are scaling and have a big team. I've seen it work. That's one of the things I think that's genius about it, is it works in big offices that are scaling. It also is really valuable tool for folks that are in that build season of their career, where they're really trying to get their office off the ground and get new patients in and see new patients and help people get the word out in the community. So I can see the value of that. In our office, and you I think know this, I was involved in the onboarding of our team into your program. I haven't yet done a presentation, and we have incredible results with your program. Our team does the presentations. It works fantastic. A couple months ago, I think I shared this with you. We had one talk, we had over 70 attendees at the talk and scheduled 30, I think 32 or 33 new patients from that one talk.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. So thank you for that. I appreciate you
Absolutely.
helping our team with that and helping our community with that. I was stoked by that. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
our team, we love hearing that, right? Our call center, we don't call them call agents, we call them community advocates, right? And they're trained to understand what's at stake, right, for these people if they don't show up to the workshop. And so when I hear, results like that, that just it makes me feel so good inside, because I know the quality of care that those people are getting access to, right? And so thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And I know that little anecdote will speak to this a little bit, but CEOs make business decisions, right? So they always want to know what they're going to get for
Sure.
the return on their investment. So could you tell us just a little bit about that from an average example and what that looks like with Waitlist Workshops?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I wish that 70 in attendance was an average, right? That
Yeah.
was not an average. It was a fantastic event. Our averages are great though, and the return on investment is great on the averages. And this is why it was the only type of marketing I did in my own practices for a 12-year period. So average attendance is going to be somewhere between 12 to 15 in attendance. Some offices are averaging 20, depending upon where they're located and cost per lead. Average average registrations per workshop is going to be somewhere between 60 to 100. Show rates are going to be somewhere between 18 to 22%. So based upon that, then we know that there's going to be somewhere, that's why there is somewhere between 12 to 16, 15 people in attendance. It really is a math problem, at the end of the day. And that's how I look at it. So with a average conversion rate of 60%, and an average, that's to new patient exams, an average conversion rate of people to care of 60 to 70%, then people are looking at an average of somewhere between 6 to 10 new patients per workshop. And then with an average ROI, or I'm sorry, an average case value of 3,000, and that's on the low side for most offices. These are people, and that's something that is sometimes hard. I always have to talk about this when I'm talking with new docs, is that I just ask them the question, based upon the types of people that these topics, bring into your practice, where do you think they lie in terms of being mild, moderately, or severely subluxated? And so the answer is typically moderate to severe.
Yeah.
That's what they typically tell me. And the answer from my experience in giving over 300 workshops personally is that they're usually, they're usually in the severe range, but definitely moderate. And so these people don't balk at needing corrective care. This program was developed in my practice, which was 100% cash, and we did year-long care plans. That's all we offered. And we had a high conversion rate with these people, and 80 to 85%, depending upon the associate, who was running this. But this is, as you mentioned, this is highly scalable because I moved to Texas. My practices were in San Diego, and those practices were run by associates with the only marketing we did was workshops. And they had an amazing success rate. So it's a really scalable way to grow a practice.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it certainly worked well for us and so many clients that I know personally. So I'm excited about that. I'm also curious, Doc, when you think about what's coming next, what's important next, as you look ahead at the challenges that we're facing in the profession, as you assess the needs of the profession in the future, how do you see Waitlist Workshop preparing docs for what might be coming?
So there's several things that I see happening. Number one is, and this is why, even though I've seen the major challenges politically and the drive to turn chiropractic into a more medicalized system, the research has been catching up with our philosophy over the last few decades. You know, there's studies showing us that adjusting the upper cervical spine has a positive impact on the autonomic nervous system, right? There's more and more research focused on things like HRV. We have studies looking at cerebral spinal fluid flow and cerebral blood flow. So we have all this really positive data coming out in support of what chiropractic philosophy and science had always been saying. And so I believe that the research is going to continue to really clearly show us and the world, not us because we already know, but show the world the true value of chiropractic. And here's something really positive. I used to have a company called Chiropractic Is, and we built websites, we built brochures and posters, things like that. And the reason I called the company Chiropractic Is ... was because I was really acutely aware of the situation on Google with autofill. If you typed in Chiropractic Is, what do you think it came up with?
Not positive things.
Chiropractic is, excuse my French, but bullshit. Chiropractic is a scam. Chiropractic is pseudoscience. Chiropractic is a cult. Chiropractic, is it safe? You know, these are the things that came up. And if you typed in chiropractors are, it was even worse, right? And something happened recently. I hadn't looked this up in a long time. I used to speak on that topic for about a 10-year period in the profession. And so I was telling someone about this and I went to go look and I started typing it in and it was actually very positive. Right.
Awesome.
Now, I don't know if it was just because of my instance of Google and knowing that I'm a chiropractor and all these things. I don't think so. We should take a sample and find some people who aren't chiropractors to type it in. But it was actually very positive. So I believe, and just based upon trends in giving workshops and hearing the data, you know, from our clients, skeptics are far and few between. We don't get the same number of Facebook trolls, you know, comments on our ads like we used to. The tide is turning on that respect, and you know, with JFK Jr. taking on his role, you know, in the U.S. Government here, I think we're going to see a major shift in that tide. So now is not the time to shrink, right? Now is the time to shine and meet the demand, and meet the, you know, not only create the demand, but there's a bigger demand since COVID happened. You know, we saw, you know, yes, COVID was a horrible experience for humanity, but it was also, I think, a necessary pattern interrupt for a lot of people who weren't asking questions. They were living blindly and, you know, living out of alignment with their own values. And so COVID just shook people up. And we have more people now on the chiropractic side than ever before. And so, you know, here's another quick example. It was just released a week and a half ago in Psychology Today, an article from a psychiatrist called The Gut-Brain Spine Connection. I don't know, did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's everything that the gut-brain connection class, which is one of our topics, it's everything that class has been saying for over a decade, and it's coming from a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Right. So now not only is the gut-brain connection mainstream, it has been for a long time. Now the gut-brain spine connection is entering the mainstream conversation. And boy, what a time.
Awesome.
I think this is by far the easiest time for us to show up. Whereas, you know, when our founders were showing up, they were risking, you know, everything.
Yeah.
Now we have it pretty easy.
Yeah. Have to deploy the right tools to connect. That's awesome, Doc. Thanks so much.
Yep.
You've shared some incredible pearls here with us, I would say today. I really appreciate it. I know everyone on this call will appreciate it, or on the podcast will appreciate it. I want to be sure that our listeners know how to get in touch with you. what's the best way for them to learn more, get in contact, or take whatever the next step is? Whatever that is, we'll definitely put it in our show notes.
Yeah, there's two ways to really engage with us. Number one, if you're interested to look at our turnkey systems and be able to give your first workshop in a 4 to 5 week period, jump on a call. And that's going to waitlistworkshops.com and clicking on the schedule call button. Super easy. You'll be talking with me. And we'll explore if it's right, because we know that there's 4 indicators of whether or not this is going to work, right? And we'll dive into that and find out. The other way to engage is in our Waitlist Workshops free group. So Waitlist Workshops free group on Facebook, where we share all kinds of content. We're sharing videos weekly on everything you need to know to do this yourself. Right? And we have do-it-yourself courses. And we don't hold anything back, because I understand that 2 things. One, I couldn't possibly serve everybody. And 2, Facebook is always changing, and it gives us job security. So, but yeah, that's how people can interact with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Doc. I really appreciate you being here today. Thanks for sharing with our audience. I think you shared some awesome things. Looking forward to getting it out to our crew of Remarkables. And I can't wait to connect with you again, hopefully at the next immersion. If you're there, I know you're having a new edition, so you maybe won't be at the next one, but your team will be, I'm sure.
Yes, I won't be at the next one. And unfortunately, because I am expecting a newborn in the family, very excited about that. But I'm going to miss it, because I've told you, I've told others, the TRP family, right, and culture that you guys have created is remarkable. The entire experience, and not just the experience, and it's not a rah-rah thing. It's the content, the culture, and what you're doing. And I see it in action, because the doctors that are working with TRP are getting some of the best results, right? Because you guys give them such a solid foundation, from philosophy to systems to business mindset, all the things that we don't often get in school. You guys are giving them such a solid foundation that they all they need is a room full of people, and they're crushing it. So thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Teamwork makes the dream work, brother. It's good.
Absolutely.
I'll see you the next time I see you. Have a remarkable day. See you.
Likewise. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey Remarkables, Dr. Stephen Franson here. Are you ready to take your practice systems to the next level? Grow your practice, increase your profits. Would you like to have your team immersed in a high energy, inspiring environment where they're trained and skilled up in the complete TRP system? I've got great news. It's that time of year again. It's time for the Remarkable Conversion and Retention Immersion. It only happens one time a year in the US and once in Australia. June 6th and 7th in Orlando, and June 27th and 28th in Sydney, Australia. In this comprehensive training on the complete Remarkable Practice Building System, we cover everything. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, week 1, 2, 3, 4, month 1, 2, 3, 4, year 1, 2, 3, 4, and beyond. Patient conversion and retention. We cover the entire system. What would it feel like to see more of your new patients eagerly starting care and then happily following your recommendations for care? They stay under care because they want chiropractic care. At this powerful and inspiring 2-day event, you and your team will discover exactly what is working today in the conversion process. New patients starting care and staying under care. Building your practice volume and your revenue. Learn the most cutting-edge communications that drive more conversions, unbelievable retention, and incredible referral. This is the best bang for your buck in training all year. Register your team at theremarkablepractice.com or find the link in the show notes below. Join us for a jam-packed 2 full days of intensive training for chiropractic teams that want to grow their practice and increase their profit. June 6th and 7th in Orlando, Florida, and June 27th and 28th in beautiful Sydney, Australia.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.